This video brings an urgent message that God specifically wants you to see. He has been trying to show you something terrible that happened to those who tried to destroy you, but He's concerned you might miss it. This isn't just another spiritual video about enemies. It contains a shocking revelation about divine justice that will change everything. God has been watching the people who plotted against you, and something unbelievable has occurred. The message you're about to receive has been carefully arranged to reach you at this exact moment. When you need to see it most, there's a divine appointment happening right now as you watch. Don't scroll away, because what you're about to learn will shock you about how God handles those who try to destroy His children. You need to see this terrible thing that happened to them. This isn't ordinary spiritual content. It's a divine alert about the terrible consequences that have fallen on those who tried to destroy you. God has been watching your enemies with perfect attention, noticing every attack they launched and every plan they made against you. Missing this revelation could mean not seeing the divine justice that's already been carried out on your behalf. This marks a limited time window to witness what happened to your destroyers before this divine vindication becomes old news. God cares so deeply about your vindication that He would be concerned if you failed to see His justice in action. That's why this message found you today. Your attention to this video isn't coincidence. It's a divinely orchestrated moment designed to show you the terrible fate that befell those who came against you. You need to see how their own destruction attempts backfired in ways they never expected. Every sleepless night caused by their attacks has been witnessed. Every tear you shed because of their betrayal has been collected. All the times you wondered if God saw what they were doing to you, yet continued to trust Him anyway, have been honored. Your pain from their destruction attempts hasn't gone unnoticed. Those moments when it seemed like evil people prospered while you suffered, God saw your confusion and hurt. The times when your faith in divine justice felt weak, yet you refused to take revenge yourself. That restraint was recognized in heaven. The strength it took to keep believing in God's goodness when they were actively trying to destroy you has been deeply valued. The questions you carried about why God allowed their attacks have all been acknowledged. Divine justice isn't always immediate, and God's timing isn't always obvious. Sometimes it requires patient faith to see how He handles your enemies. God understands this challenge, which is why He's making this terrible consequence so clear you can't possibly miss it. The terrible thing that happened to those who tried to destroy you appears in ways that seem like natural consequences, but are actually divine justice in action. This divine payback shows up in their plans completely backfiring, their own weapons turning against them, and their destruction attempts becoming their own downfall. It appears in the loss of everything they thought they had secured, in relationships turning against them just like they turned against you, and in their reputation being destroyed by the same methods they used on you. This terrible fate is uniquely connected to exactly how they tried to destroy you, something God has personally designed to match their crimes. It connects directly to the prayers you prayed for justice and the pain they caused you. God chose this particular form of justice because it speaks to your heart in a language only someone who's been attacked would fully understand. The window to see this divine vindication won't last forever. When you finally recognize it, you'll be amazed at how perfectly their punishment fits their crimes against you. When you recognize this terrible thing that happened to your destroyers, many confusing aspects of your painful journey will suddenly make perfect sense. Their unexplained attacks, their coordinated efforts against you, and their confident cruelty will all connect when you see their divine punishment unfolding. God has wonderful news for you today. Your spiritual understanding of divine justice is growing stronger. An important vindication is happening around your situation right now. The divine has noticed how they treated you, and now you've been chosen to witness their terrible consequences. This moment marks something significant in your relationship with God's protective nature. It's a clear indication that your faith in divine justice was not misplaced and is growing stronger every day. Something incredibly meaningful is unfolding in God's handling of your enemies, far more severe than you might have imagined possible. The recognition of this terrible fate begins a spiritual awakening about God's protective justice that will touch every area of your life and future relationships. There's a wave of heavenly attention surrounding your vindication right now. You're becoming more spiritually attuned to divine justice, naturally recognizing God's protective actions in your daily experience. Seeing this terrible thing that happened to your destroyers brings heightened awareness of His justice in even the smallest details of your life. More spiritual insights about divine vindication will begin flowing to you than ever before. This isn't happening by chance. It's a carefully arranged revelation designed specifically for this season. When you needed to see God's justice most, your prayers for vindication matter more than you realize. Your faithfulness during their attacks inspires heaven to reveal their downfall to you. Your refusal to seek personal revenge makes a difference in how God handles your enemies. This divine revelation shows that God deeply values your trust in His justice over your own. Each prayer you prayed instead of taking revenge has led you exactly to this moment of seeing their terrible fate. God delights when you finally see His justice working on your behalf. The timing of seeing this terrible consequence is no coincidence. It comes now because you're spiritually mature enough to handle it without becoming bitter. This precise moment has been divinely chosen because you've grown in faith and forgiveness while still believing in divine justice. Your spiritual eyes are now open enough to see God's vindication without it corrupting your heart. Your soul has expanded through trials and learned to trust God's timing rather than your own desire for immediate revenge. Your spirit is now prepared to witness this divine justice more clearly than ever before. All the patience you showed while waiting for God to handle your enemies has been preparation for seeing their terrible fate now. Nothing in your journey of trusting God's justice has been wasted. Every moment of restraint shaped your ability to witness divine vindication properly. This particular revelation about your destroyers is connected to larger movements of divine justice happening worldwide. God is revealing similar terrible consequences to others who've trusted His timing over their own revenge. If you're feeling blessed by seeing this divine justice against your destroyers, please consider sending a super thanks of $5, $10, $20, or more to support our channel's mission of sharing these important vindication messages. Your generosity helps these divine justice revelations reach those who desperately need to see God's vindication in their own situations. When you give, you participate in a sacred exchange that allows us to continue revealing how God handles enemies in these critical times. As you begin to recognize this terrible thing that happened to your destroyers, new spiritual awareness about divine justice will naturally develop in your life. This clearer vision brings new responsibilities, not just to celebrate their downfall, but to everyone God places in your path who's facing similar attacks. Don't view these responsibilities as burdens, but as sacred opportunities to share how God handles enemies. This revelation signals it's time to step into spiritual maturity about divine vindication and navigate this knowledge with heavenly wisdom and a pure heart. Finding balance becomes essential during this vindication season. While celebrating seeing their terrible fate, remember to maintain your spiritual disciplines through prayer, scripture, and forgiveness that kept your heart right during their attacks. These spiritual practices shaped who you are and will continue to support you as you grow into this expanded understanding of God's protective justice. God is inviting you to become more than just a witness of vindication, but someone who helps others trust His justice to God. As you become aware of this terrible consequence for your destroyers, think about how you can help others who are still waiting to see God's justice in their situations. Your experience shows that God is constantly working vindication Even when we can't see it happening, heaven witnesses every moment of divine justice, every recognition of God's protective nature, and every choice to trust His timing over personal revenge. Your story of seeing their terrible fate brings hope to people feeling defeated by enemies or wondering if God still fights for His people today. Your awareness becomes a light that helps others develop eyes to see how God is working vindication all around them. This terrible thing that happened to your destroyers isn't meant to be a private blessing. It's an invitation to help others experience the same trust in divine justice. God often works through those who have recently witnessed His vindication to help encourage others who are still waiting to see their enemies' downfall. As you navigate this new knowledge of the terrible thing that happened to your destroyers, stay consistently balanced in your heart. God reminds you that while seeing their downfall is wonderful, it's just the beginning of understanding how He protects His children throughout life. Maintain the spiritual purity that allowed you to trust His justice instead of seeking revenge. In the first place, guard against returning to bitterness or hatred that could corrupt the blessing of seeing divine vindication. Let your awareness of God's justice continue to flow from genuine faith and daily connection to His heart of both mercy and judgment. With this new understanding of how God handles enemies, comes ongoing responsibility to remain humble and grateful rather than proud or vengeful. Use this revelation wisely to discern true divine justice from personal satisfaction in others' pain. Not every bad thing that happens to difficult people is divine justice, but God will make truly important vindications unmistakable. Embrace this journey of understanding God's protective nature with both gratitude and continued forgiveness, showing others that trusting divine justice comes from staying connected to God's heart daily. Picture a future where you consistently recognize God's protective justice working on your behalf before enemies can succeed. Imagine divine vindication surrounding every attack against you, spiritual protection arriving precisely when threats emerge, and your understanding of heavenly justice expanding beyond anything you've experienced before. God stands with you, encouraging you to embrace this journey of trusting His vindication with complete confidence. This is truly your moment to experience deeper divine connection through witnessing how He handles those who come against you. This marks the beginning of a time when your spiritual perception, wisdom, and trust in divine justice will be more aligned with heaven than ever before. Accept this revelation with gratitude and remember that you're surrounded by divine protection. On this journey of seeing God's justice unfold, the path ahead holds countless opportunities to experience God's vindication through consequences that will become increasingly clear to your spiritually attuned eyes. What peace awaits as you learn to trust the divine language of justice and protection all around you. If this message about divine vindication has awakened something powerful in your spirit, please consider blessing our channel with a super thanks of $5, $10, $20, or whatever amount feels right to you. Your support creates a beautiful spiritual exchange and allows us to continue sharing these divine justice revelations with those who need them most. Your generosity helps fund our mission to help others see how God handles their enemies. In these critical times, if you're ready to acknowledge that you've seen the terrible thing that happened to your destroyers, type 999 in the comments below as your declaration of witnessing divine vindication. The journey of recognizing divine justice against your enemies continues beyond this revelation. As you step into new awareness of God's protective vindication, stay grounded in Scripture and prayer that keeps your heart pure and your discernment sharp about true divine justice. Every terrible consequence you recognize happening to your destroyers could be the exact confirmation someone else has been waiting to see about God's protection. Your growing spiritual sensitivity about divine justice serves as inspiration for others wondering if God still fights for His people today. Move forward with a grateful heart, a watchful mind, and a trusting spirit that knows God handles your enemies perfectly. Create opportunities for others to recognize divine vindication as you enjoy the protection and justice flowing your way. The spiritual reality of divine justice has always been part of how God cares for those who love Him by choosing to trust His timing over your own revenge. You join a long tradition of faithful people who have learned to recognize His protective voice in everything around them. The terrible thing that happened to your destroyers is just the beginning of seeing how thoroughly God protects and vindicates His children.